Okay, so today we're going to do a short overview of the QuickBooks Online integration with Leap. Leap integrates with both QuickBooks Online and Xero for the general ledger package. Our experience is very much that in the US, QuickBooks Online is the preferred solution. And so the purpose of this demonstration is to provide a little insight on how the two systems communicate and how the systems can be used for day-to-day activities like making deposits, cutting checks, etc. So we've jumped straight into our Leap matter list, and we can see here all of the different cases that are available to us. The matter list is the main screen, which all users will see. However, depending on their level of access, there are certain tasks that they may or may not be able to complete. The Leap configuration allows for permissions to be set to disable accounting features, reporting features, and many other options that you may choose to restrict to only certain personnel. You will note in the top left corner, we have the menu, and this is an area of the system which tends to be only used by administrators or people within a central admin or accounts function. The Leap system links with QuickBooks Online for the general ledger, and in order to do so, it needs to know how to map the transactions to the general ledger codes. Every time you carry out a transaction in Leap that affects operating accounts, that will need to be automatically sent over by the integration, and so the system needs to know where to place that entry. As part of the implementation package, that setup will be completed so that the two systems can speak to one another. In doing so, we can see under the settings area of the system that we have our application settings. And this is where your Leap certified independent consultant will set the system to match with your general ledger codes. Here we can see under general ledger account codes, we have a series of general ledger accounts for all manner of items such as fees that we have invoiced, expenses that we've recovered or billed, monies that we've received in either as a retainer into operating accounts or for payment of an invoice straight into operating accounts, and then for all the other items such as discounts, write-offs, etc. The two systems are therefore intrinsically linked by virtue of this mapping, and therefore the system will automatically know where to pass this information across into QuickBooks Online. The integration can run completely silently in the background, and this is what we call auto sync. So under our accounting area, we have our general ledger link. You'll see in the top left-hand side, there is a facility to set the auto sync. If this is toggled to green, the integration will post automatically all of the entries that affect your general ledger so that you need not worry about making any double entry or rekeying the information into QuickBooks Online. This is a great benefit from an admin saving perspective, but also from accuracy, because if you are entering the data in two places, it is possible that things get missed, things get duplicated, or things get transposed or errors made. By taking the information directly across from Leap to QuickBooks, it avoids that need for somebody to do so manually. If you prefer to check it, you do not have to enable auto sync. You can use the Sync Now button, which will just do it as and when you sync it. So you could check it once a day, once a week, once a month, or whatever your CPA requires you to do. So now we understand how the two systems speak to one another. Let's look at what that looks like on a day-to-day basis. In our desktop application, we have all of our cases. And if we wanted to make an entry on a matter, we can do so very easily by just finding the matter. I'm going to choose a residential sale, open the matter, and anything that we do on the operating account is going to impact the general ledger. That would be for fees that we have included on our invoices, for any discounts that we've given on fees. It will also be for any payments that we receive from clients, any expenses or disbursements that we've paid out on behalf of clients, any bank payments and checks that we've cut from operating accounts, or any counsels or experts fees that we might have incurred. These will all need to go onto the matter, but they also impact your general ledger. You can see here the system is notifying us. It did take a little while longer than it usually would to load, and that's because it's alerting us to a change on the critical dates for this matter type. So I'm just going to choose do not remind me, and then we can jump straight in to the operating account. So we can see on this system, we have paid an expense for $6,500 to Mark Wahlberg. You can see expenses paid and receivables. So we've never actually done an invoice on this case. What I'm going to do is I'm going to cut a check, first of all, from this particular matter for, let's say, for filing fees. So I'm going to pay expense. I have the option here to choose operating account, but I also have different accounts available. So if you have a line of credit or a firm's credit card, or if you have a special account for filing fees, you can choose that, and that will automatically integrate with the general ledger. I'm going to choose a supplier that we have on this system already. I'm going to use Boston Forensic Accountants for this particular one. It's automatically pulled in the amount. I'm going to say we're going to pay them by check. We're going to pay them by operating check. And if we did have check numbering, automatic check numbering enabled, it will pull it in. But I'm just going to put in a number here. The matter is automatically populated because we're in the matter, and I'm going to say pay disbursement for Boston Forensics fee. And I'm going to say that was for $1,200 with no tax. And I will tick to say that the payment has been sent. And at that point, I can save and close, or I can save a copy of that as a PDF to the electronic file, in addition to obviously what appears on the ledger. So if I choose save and close, it's actually, we've already used that check number. So it's just double checking with me that that is something that we want to do. And I'm going to say no, and I'm going to change it. Okay, so we can now see that that check is there. I paid it out of operating account. It's on our case. And when we come to invoice, that will then be available for invoicing, as would the $6,500, which was raised on the 16th of May. So I'm going to do a really quick flat fee invoice. So I'm just going to do, I'm going to do a new invoice because I do want to include the $1,200. And I'm actually going to exclude that $6,500 because that's from something else. So by removing it from the invoice, it leaves it on the ledger to be billed at a future time. We've got an automatic number in here. We've got the date, the due date, and we've got a status of draft and approved. As you can see, there's no professional services fees included here. I'm just simply going to put a flat fee in for $2,500. And the attorney who's getting the benefit of those fees is user one. And I'm going to click save and close. And that will add our $2,500 onto the invoice. And I can go ahead and I can finalize that invoice. Now, once I've finalized it, you'll see that these go grey, which means that they can't be edited. Over on the right hand side, we have some information here about any retainers that we have on account, any trust balance, etc. As it stands, we haven't actually got anything for this particular case. So I'm going to save and close that. I could also generate a copy of the PDF bill at this point if I choose to by using the print option, but for the purposes of speed, I'm going to go ahead and just save the invoice. And what you'll see the system does is it identifies that this has now been invoiced, so it's cleared that balance from the expenses paid column and added it to the receivables column. So we can see here that we have $3,700 for receivables, which is outstanding. If we just jump back to our financial summary, we can see we've still got the $6,500 on the ledger because we removed that from the invoice for future billing, and our receivables balance is $3,700. Now, more likely than not, we're going to receive payment for that invoice over the course of the next week or so. So assuming that's coming straight into operating account, we're going to deposit the client's check into operating account. So I'm going to pay the whole amount, $3,700. And again, I'm saying that how that's come in from us. So it's probably received by a personal check, but I'll just enter some information about that if we needed to identify the check in the future. Okay, and here we can see our total is 3,700, our balance is 3,700, and I can simply click in there and it will apply it, which takes that balance down to zero because we have cleared the invoice in full. Now, presuming that the client had maybe sent us $5,000 because they were paying the 3,700 and they were topping up the retainer by 1,300, we could also add a retainer line in here and put the extra 1,300, which would just sit on the account as a retainer to be taken for future bills. So I'm going to click Save and Close. And we can see now that that invoice, there was a balance of 3,700. There was then a receipt of 3,700. So our receivable balance is now zero. Jump back to our financial summary. We can see that that has cleared out. And we can see what was billed and how that was broken down. You can see over here on the right-hand side as well, we do have the fees estimate. So we've massively exceeded what was agreed with the client, and that's why we're getting this progress warning here in red, because we really ought to be alerting the client that we've exceeded our fees that we discussed. Okay, so from the matters perspective, those are all things that you would do throughout the course of a matter, and if you weren't using a general ledger package which was integrated, you may have to then have your CPA or bookkeeper go and type those deposits, go and cut those checks, etc. With the integration with QuickBooks Online, that isn't necessary. I haven't actually enabled auto-sync because I think for the purposes of demonstration, it's easy to, it's also nice to see how that data comes across. So if I go to accounting and go to general ledger link, you'll see the entries that we have posted that need to go across. So because this system is set up for cash accounting, you're only accounting for the income when you physically receive that money, in line with how you would calculate your taxes. The only things that are going over there are the check, which we paid out, and the money that we received in for the payment of the invoice, which is obviously going to update our income accounts. Now, if this auto sync was enabled, we could go ahead and come in. We wouldn't even need to come in here. It would just be happen as a matter of course. But what we can do now is we'll just click sync now, and that will send those two items over into our general ledger. Okay, so no need for re-entry. The information is going to automatically come across into QuickBooks. Now, if we just refresh our QuickBooks, because I've had that open for a little while in the background, we will be able to see how QuickBooks looks. It is different to QuickBooks Desktop. Obviously, the general ledger, which you may see in your legacy system, might look different. And if you are using or have seen QuickBooks Desktop, the online version does look different functionally. It's very similar. The integration that Leap has works with QuickBooks Online, not with QuickBooks Desktop, but there is a very simple migration process from QuickBooks Desktop to QuickBooks Online if you want to migrate over to the online product and benefit from the integration. As QBO certified advisors at Java, we are able to provide professional services to assist with the migration of the general ledger data and the training and support packages. Okay, so I'm going to jump into my chart of accounts because that's a great place to identify all of the items that we set up when we set up the system. We can see all of those codes that we saw in the integration side of the Leap system are here matching on the QuickBooks Online system. That integration is set up and the system is doing the work for you. So if I were to now come and I wanted to perhaps investigate that item that I had sent over, I wanted to see that it had gone to my fees account, I can simply come in here, I can run a report just to prove that the transaction is in fact there. And if we just jump down to today, we can see our $2,500 for our fees on check number 620 came over today. And all of the other entries that we have made for invoices, for payments that have been received, for checks, these are automatically coming through to the system. So you know when you pull off your income statement or you come to do your bank reconciliation, everything's there automatically. So looking therefore at reports, there are a series of standard and favourite reports. Your profit and loss or your income statement is one of the main ones, your balance sheet as well. Of course, there's a lot that happens in a law firm that doesn't impact the matters, such as when you're paying your rent bill or you're paying your payroll. And it's really easy to post these entries in QuickBooks Online. If we come up to the new item, we can easily add a bill for a vendor, we can do a credit memo, we can pay an expense. So I'm just going to pay an expense, and this is going to be for our rent. So who did we pay? We paid Regis. If Regis was set up as a vendor already, we wouldn't need to add them, but because it's the first time I've paid them, I'm adding them here. Okay, and then what category would that be for? That would usually be for rent. So our general ledger for rent, we'll say this is for rent for Boston office for June 2022. And we'll say it was 3695. Now, if we wanted to break that down further, maybe by a department, so that you can look at area of law in your income statement, we can do so. A lot of firms don't want that level of detail. They just want the kind of headline information, but it's very possible to use the integration to split out all of your income and expenditure by either department or by office location, if that's what you choose to do. So I'm simply just going to save that. So I'm just going to click save. And actually, I'm going to save and close, and that will take me out of that. So that is a really neat way to just simply put on a check for something that the firm's paying for, and that's going to feed through to your bank reconciliation in the same way. So in Leap, anything that you do relates to trust account stays entirely in Leap. Your trust account information will not feed across to QuickBooks Online. So just to show you where you would carry out your trust reconciliation, this would be under menu, accounting, reconcile trust account. And this would be available in here to reconcile your trust account, do your three-way reconciliation, print out your trust accounts listing. Everything is available in Leap for trust account. It is only the operating account that you will need to reconcile in QuickBooks Online. So we can see here our last reconciled position was on April 1st, and our reconciled balance was 238,505. If I just bring that forward through to May 1, you'll see the system then looks at all of the items that will have been posted in that period that need to be reconciled off against the bank statement. And it's really a simple process of just identifying those and doing your trust reconciliation in Leap. I'm just going to hit save for later. Obviously, the aim is to have a zero variance so that you can be confident that every single item that you've posted has been accounted for in your bank statement and vice versa. We'll click save for later. I think it's really important to remember that whilst your general ledger may have included trust before, it doesn't need to include trust. So you can get all of the information you need from Leap for your trust and just use QuickBooks Online for your firm's account and your operating, for your trust account and your operating. Okay, so now we're going to jump back into QuickBooks Online, and I'm going to show you how to reconcile your bank account. So the last reconciliation on this account was actually October 31st. I'm going to do resume reconciling. And we're going to edit the statement information. I'm going to bring that forward through to the present day. So let's run it through to May 1st. And what you would do is you would put in your bank statement balance at that date and save. So you'll see that there were no entries to be reconciled on that particular account. So I just need to change the account name and go to my checking account. And again, I'm just going to pop in the balance at that date. And I'm going to work through till May 1st and start reconciling. And the system's going to present out to me all of the items that are unreconciled at that point. Now, it's really, really easy for me to just match them all. If I know they've all happened, I can simply come in here and just do select all. And there's 695 transactions here, so that's a big lot of data. Now, in doing so, if all of the things that you've posted do not reconcile to what has to the movement on the bank, you're going to be presented with a difference. Now, that difference may be that maybe something hasn't cleared yet, so it still needs to sit on the uncleared listing. So we can remove this item. And let's pick a few more. Obviously, in a real world scenario, you'll be working through your bank statement and ensuring that everything was matched off precisely. And as you can see, that difference is reducing right down. Maybe we need to take a couple of checks off that haven't cleared as well. And in a real life scenario, you would obviously have the bank statement in front of you. And if there was some difference, you would be able to identify what that was relating to. So what I can do now is I can see that I've got one entry of $269.13, which has hit the bank, which has not been accounted for on my ledger. So I now need to go make inquiries and see if we can identify what that transaction is for so that we can post it and then tick it to ensure it's included. And because we need to do that, rather than going ahead and trying to reconcile, which it won't let me because we have a difference, I'm just going to hit save for later. And then that reconciliation process is done. So I'm also just going to quickly show you the P&L report and how easy it is to generate that information. And you can see here, this is from January 1 through to June 1. These are the accounts that we have set up. By default, Leap will put all of the fees in a central control account. If you want, this can be apportioned out by way of a journal or a general ledger reporting group. Obviously, each firm has their own preference on that. And then you can see we have the information that's available on all of the expenses that we've paid out, whether it be firm's expenses or whether it be checks that we've cut for disbursements. And it's really easy to just export that out into Excel or to PDF. We can save that as PDF. So the general ledger solution is really easy to use. The integration is seamless. You have this new button here to make all of the entries that you need to put directly into your general ledger. Obviously, anything that relates to a matter or case, you're going to be putting in Leap, and that's going to come over automatically. Hopefully, you can see the benefits of using QuickBooks Online. One of the other added advantages is the setting up of your 1099 reporting, which can be done in QuickBooks Online. Obviously, it's a tool that's very familiar with most CPAs and bookkeepers, so you can add them as accountant or advisors, and they can actually log in remotely without having to come to your place of work to prepare your accounts, which hopefully will save money on bookkeeping fees. If you do have any queries or questions about how the Leap and QuickBooks integration works and what services are recommended to ensure that the setup is done fully and the training is provided by a QuickBooks Online certified advisor, then do feel free to reach out to info@javaglobal.com.